Okay guys, I've been out of Civ for a while. Things have been a little bit hectic around the house. As people might know, I abandoned this series for a long time, and now I'm getting back to it for much the same reasons I did before. Today, I want to talk about Recap War. We're going to talk about the background, that is, what is Recap War, how do we do it? We're going to talk about the defender's point of view, and we're going to talk about the attacker's point of view. Here, it's appropriate to credit Malros. Malros is the guy who taught me everything I know about Recap War, and wherever you are, Malros, we're all thinking about you. In the first section, I'm going to talk about what is Recap War, what makes it good, and how do I set it up. Recap War is fundamentally the strategy which involves allowing a city to be captured and then quickly recapturing it. So a typical Recap War involves sacrificing your city and then quickly getting it back, instead of fighting in front of the city where you can possibly get destroyed. Prima facie, this seems a bit ridiculous, you would say. Why would I give up my city, which is one of the most valuable things I've put a lot of resources into? It's important when we're talking about this to review some facts that are going to inform us of the strength of the strategy. First, all cities become 100 HP post-capture. Cities are base 200 HP, and they tend to be pretty strong even without population. A city's strength is mostly determined by whether or not it has walls and the amount of text you have. Any unit which is in the city dies on capture. That means that when you take a city, you can often do a 2-for-1 job of both obtaining a city and killing a unit. Cities heal every turn. It's very important. They exert zone of control. Actually, a city zone of control is stronger than a normal unit's. Worker captures to break Zoc don't work against cities. And finally, cities claim their first ring on capture. This is very important if you're thinking about a Citadel fight. Now that we're here, we can talk about why Recap War is good. There's two perspectives from which it can be really good. The first is that you're generally trading well when you are recapping your own cities. If somebody is taking your city and then you're taking it back, you have a chance to kill the unit which captured the city, which is obviously a big swing. Remember, cities typically build a unit every 3 or so turns. So if you only kill one unit every 3 turns while you're in the middle of your recap war, that's probably more use than the city would have been. You get to abuse the bonuses of siege units. Remember, all siege units have a plus 200% bonus to attacking cities, and they all have indirect fire. So when you're in a recap war, you've created a more useful class of units that's more hammer efficient. And as the defender, when you take your city back, you get your city shot once again, and you're respawning this 200 total HP unit up to 100 HP right now with the free shot with the heal every turn. Generally speaking, Recap War is really good for you even outside of the unit trade perspective when you're outscaling your opponent. And that's because a Recap War fundamentally limits the amount of trades. When you're recap warring, you're often hiding in your own borders. Lots of shots are getting spent on the city. Again, the city which is healing every turn, which is often respawning after it gets taken. And it slogs down the war. And students of history will, of course, think of any number of failed assaults into cities which have seemed successful and then completely floundered. Taking a city is one thing, holding is another. How do I recapture a city? I should have 2 to 3 siege units, be pretty well behind the city, set up. These will be the guys that fire on the city and reduce its health to 0 after it's captured. I need a capture unit. This guy should be able to go in, capture the city, hopefully come back out, but Sometimes they don't make it out. This is okay. And I'd like to have some trash to stop people from just going around the city. A typical recap war setup in, say, classical medieval war is maybe they're pushing your city with crossbows, and you have 2 catapults and a horseman. Or sometimes a scout is also fine to recap with, because I don't care if that scout gets killed. It's a very cheap unit. In artillery war, your recap setup is almost always some arties and some cav. And in the later stage of the game, things start to get a bit worse. You have sometimes like arty tank recap setups, but these get shredded by bombers. One of the main advantages of rocket artillery is that they allow you to win recap war versus artillery. And in stealth eras, stealth actually serve as both the city killing unit and the land unit killing unit. So recap war is viable and important in every stage of the game. So here's our recap war setup. This is a screenshot from a video I might show a little bit of later. This is me in the purple. Say hi, everybody. There's my teammate, Argent, in this light blue, perhaps, deep blue. And this guy who's pushing me, this is Ben G, in the red. And you can see here, I've got a cav touching the city. I've got 2 cavs touching the city. This is kind of like a shoulder blocker. And we have 3 cannons ready to recap. The fact that we've only got cannons is a testament to how bad our gold is. Here's another recap setup. This is from a skirm, so the units involved are very different. Here I've got a horse touching the city. I've got the catapult behind. I've got some expos that can shoot. So this is another recap setup. As the defender, what do you need to know for your recap war? The first thing is that recapture is kind of an APM check. The faster you recapture, the less damage that your opponent can do to you. If they take the city and then they get all of their moves off and they claim a lot of tiles, you probably can't even recapture. So you got to be pretty aware of these things. You got to be set up and ready to take. Your defensive setups are much, much better when you can zoc enemy units on capture. If every time they take a city they lose a unit, you're recap warring much better. This phenomenon also occurs a lot when your city is 1 tile behind a river, because then every unit which takes it gets completely stuck, and then you can kill that unit on capture. And finally, walls are really, really good. Walls help you defeat enemy attempts to outsiege you. And a wall is relatively cheap, so a captured city can often build it and maybe even finish it where it couldn't finish a unit. Here's an example of a good defensive zoc setup. So here I've got my 2 catapults and my horse. These are the ingredients we declared were necessary for our recapture war. There's a lot of expos bearing down on me, and I've got these 2 spears here. And if my opponent dumps all these shots in the city and takes with this horse, no matter how the horse takes, it's going to get zocked by one of my spears, and then when I recapture, I'm going to kill the horse. So my opponent is going to have to try to work on the flanks here. They're going to try to work on the shoulders to kill these spears first. On the other hand, here's a very bad zoc setup. Here I've still got my spears, but this spear has stepped back, maybe because it was scared of these crossbows, and this horse is forward. Now what happens is my opponent can freely dump shots into the city, take with the horse, goes 1 movement here, 2, 3 to capture, and then 1 to go out. When I recap, I get nothing. I've just lost the city. And they can kind of do this forever. When you're fighting over a city, the important things are you want to control the shoulders of the city. That is, to go back to our example, these 2 tiles are the shoulders of the city for me, because this is how I maintain my zoc grip. And these 2 tiles are the shoulders of the city for the person who's attacking me. This is, if he controls both of these, I'm going to get zocked every time I capture. The other thing is, it's really important, don't leave a unit in the city, or try your absolute hardest not to leave a unit in the city. If you leave a unit in the city, you're liable to lose it when the city gets captured. And the other thing is that killing a unit or capturing a worker both break Zoc. And that means that sometimes it'll allow your opponent to get their unit that just captured out. From the attacker's perspective, how can we defeat someone who is attempting to do a recapture war on us? The first option is just don't. And I think this is a pretty good option that's underutilized, and I'll talk about that in a bit. The second option is to outsiege them. This is the most realistic one. And good fights will involve a large portion of this. And the last option is to APM flex on them, which I don't find very realistic. There are some people who swear by it. I don't believe in it. Step 1. You can just leave. One of the morals of this whole series is that when you are trading bad, stop doing it. If you're ramming units into a city and you're losing units all over the place and you can't get a good setup to break through, you're just feeding them. You're letting them get their city shot every turn. You're letting them get their heal every turn. You're slamming units in. You're not healing. It's really bad for your game. Sometimes you need to know when you need to cut your losses. One of my favorite sayings in recent memory is, don't go back down that same alley you got mugged in. I think it's a good lesson for Civ players everywhere. That said, it's often really nice to take a city once just for techs and to cut their production. So sometimes you can go in, beat up the city, take the city, maybe you trade a little bit bad, but you've done significant damage to the enemy, and then you leave. This is a real option. Remember, in this entire series, I'm always thinking the dual context. And in the dual context, it's very, very reasonable to damage your enemy and then leave. The second option, and this is, I think, the most realistic, is to outsiege them. How do I outsiege them? Well, first I need to have siege units of my own. So if they've got 2 catapults, I want to have 2 catapults as well. Maybe I even want to have 3 catapults. And what I want to do is when they recapture the city, I'm going to recap their recap. And we're going to have this kind of siege unit fight until one person runs out of capture power. To do a quick description of how the double cap should work, let's imagine that I have three catapults and I'm attacking, and you only have 2 and you're defending. What I want to do is shoot the city down to 0 before taking it. Then, the next turn, I only need 1 catapult shot to shoot it and then take it. Maybe I even need 0. Then I get my, say, horse out. Then you recapture it with your 2 catapult shots. Remember, the city gets 100 health, so you do need those 2. Then I've got another 2, so I can shoot it again and then take it. This is a double cap. So it's important that I begin the start of turn double cap fight with the city as low health as possible. When this happens, the attacker matches their siege units against the defender, and it allows you to hold the city much more than simply trying to shoot and take every turn would. The other options are to control the shoulders of the city, as we talked about in this picture, thinking about like these here. If you control the shoulders of the city, then every time the opponent recaps, you kill the unit which captures because it got zocked. And the third option is to expand the front, is to walk around a bit and continue to war over the city while making more progress elsewhere. The attacker, the person with the larger army, generally wants to expand the front. The last option is to just flex on them. And the basic idea here is you capture the city, and then you suddenly have access to a lot of roads, and a lot of units have been unlocked, and you just run it all in, you claim as many tiles as possible, you kill everything, and then before they can get their recap off, you've taken everything, and they have nothing left. And this is a wonderful, wonderful world to live in, and sometimes it is the world we live in. But I don't find it very realistic most of the time. So if you're that guy, if you've got those clicks, if you can take the city and then every single tank slams through the roads, then good on you. I'm not that guy. I can't handle it. That said, I want to do a little bit of some example stream from this fight that I had with our boy Benji. Oops. So let's fast forward a bit. Okay, so we're in this fight. I really should have tabbed to the right portion here. Okay, so there we go. You see 2 cannon shots I take and then I walk out. Wow, that was actually pretty smooth. I tabbed to exactly the right portion. And then we recap war over the city pretty consistently for the rest of the game. So let's find some more instances. I fought kind of bad here, which is why I'm not showing off too much. Actually, that's I think a disservice. I fought as well as I could. Okay, so here, actually this is good. I failed my recap. I don't have a capture, and that means the city heals for him this turn. This is a really terrible way to demonstrate. Okay. Okay, so here, now the turn ends. City heals for him. I get my RD shots off. Man, my clicks are so slow. And then I take. My unit does get zocked there by that land ship. And so this was actually a really, not great trade for me. I believe he just recaps the city on his own because he's also got his RD, so he's out-sieged me here. There's one example here which I'm not going to dig too far into, which is him actually blitzing through a city and killing the unit I wanted to recap with. But generally speaking, I think Ben played this very well. So this is a good example. I don't think I'm going to upload this VOD. So as usual, if there are any questions or comments, leave them in below the video. I'll get to them as soon as possible. I'm not playing that much Civ right now, and probably not for a while, but I think I will get back to making as many of these videos as I can, because I can't be called out for them as much because Lek is out of war meta. So I'll see you all then.